Welcome in, everyone. RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here. John here. Oh, ready to get into it. Like I said in my posts throughout Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, we're here to be your DC United therapist. We are here to listen. We are here to try to be understanding.
We take all insurance. We take no insurance pay. Whatever you want to, however you want to settle up to be your therapist.
You get a little more love if you go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/RFK Refugees. Maybe throw us some money for a beer, because we have to watch this team. We have to sit and we have to watch this team for 90 minutes every week. We've been doing it now since 2018.
7 years ago.
7 years ago, which is wild to think about. And we're kind of, it feels like this feels like we are back sort of in the same place, the same down place from 2022. Will it get better? I don't know. Anyway, John, how you doing, my friend? How was your weekend? I hope it was good. Other than the soccer.
It was other than soccer. Yeah, I got to go see a concert. That was fun. Saw my friends. The soccer was not so great. We need the spirit to be a never international break, because then we have a chance to watch decent local soccer on TV, no matter what. I don't know. Yeah, my weekend was all right. Yours was probably refereeing, lots of refereeing.
Not rain, refereeing. Right? Yeah, not refereeing. Actually, I took a little hiatus. I had a long weekend last weekend. I did two like a Tuesday and a Wednesday, or a Wednesday and a Thursday, and then I actually went to see my family for a bit. Just kind of had a chill weekend. I'm getting right back to it. It's also spring break, so high school's not in season, so there wasn't a whole lot to do. And I was like, this is a good opportunity to maybe take a little breather and get back at it.
I like that right now on the Discord. Anytime a referee makes a mistake, people at you to talk about it, which I think is great. I think that's good.
Yeah, I'm sure you love that.
I do. I do. I think it's great. I think you should start. I think you should. You could have your own. You could have your own sub brand. Or Ted adjudicates bad MLS calls? Question mark.
All I'll say is, man, is the amount of people who give certain players passes and everything like that, but the referee gets no pass. That's all I'll say. No pass. All right, guys, we're avoiding it. Let's get into it. DC United 6-1 losers to San Jose. A celebration of the 29th/30th anniversary, depending on how you do math, between the first game, which DC United also lost. Did they just choose, like, it was because, like, it fell on April 6th and, like, it fell on that day, and that's why they wanted to do it? And, like,
I think so.
That had to be it, because they're advertising it as like a 30th anniversary when it's actually the 29th anniversary of the match. But yeah, I think they have like, I think they still have like during the COVID year, they like broadcasted the games. I wonder, I think those, you can still find those somewhere. Anyway, you can go watch the game. You'll have a much more enjoyable time because you'll know the result at the end of the season is fantastic, despite seeing a 1-0 loss to DC United. This one was 6-1, and this was bad. This was, I don't know if we're at rock bottom. We're definitely in the depths. We're definitely approaching the bottom very rapidly at this point. Not sure if it's rock bottom. Not sure if this is, I still am, maybe we'll view this as a blip. I don't know. This result felt bad. This was the first result, I would say, of the Lesesne area where the players gave up sort of in the last 10 minutes. The play itself was sloppy. The tactics, the organization, the way the team was out there was highly questionable, and I'll get into that into a minute. This is the first match where I have started to question. I'm like, is Troy Lesesne the right coach? Is this team going to figure it out? Are there actually like bright spots that you can look on this team? I think there's some players that have looked well, some players that haven't. The depth is very much wanting, and I am questioning some of the decisions on who he is choosing to sort of sub into this game, as opposed to who he should maybe leave at home. I watched this game, John, live. John, you have watched it since then, what are your? Did that help at all? I got to ask. Did that help at all?
Did what help at all?
Did watching it, with
No.
a calm head, or did it just make it
No.
worse? No.
No. I got to just basically see everyone lose their mind in real time, talking about it. So I was prejudiced the jury a little bit, I would say. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things you can nitpick on, and you were talking about bright spots. I think they're very hard to find at the moment. Famously for listeners of the show, I did predict that Troy would be fired in the first half of the season. I did predict that. Christian Benteke, as I said at the beginning of the game, leads in almost all stats that are possible for him to lead, and then the rest of the team is just statistically shambles, defensively, an attacking perspective, in all ways. So it's starting to look a little bit like Christmas here on that perspective. The problem is, as people have rightly noted, and we'll get into this with the questions. Who wants to come into this? Who's going to do better with this group right away? Which is why you'd fire the person right away, is because you think that this roster is underperforming. Do you think this roster is underperforming by a lot? By a lot, not maybe like a little bit. Like, say, let's see, we've got how many points right now? We have 6 points. Say we could have 10. Say we could be as good as San Jose. Maybe that's like the best case scenario. Do you think if Jim Curtin came in here tomorrow, we would be dramatically better with the same roster?
Probably not. I think that's a fair assessment. I think any coach who would come into this situation now would know that they would get a DP slot that would need to be filled, and then they would get another one potentially filled the next season. And they would not get blamed for anything that would be happening. They would get the year. There was just no way you could just throw them into this, and then if they don't perform, then things go bad.
Hilarious to scapegoat a coach that is that the replacement has that benefit. Like, okay, if you come in, we can promise you that sure, we only have one designated player. Sure, but if you come in and next beginning of next year, you'll have 2 more. You can pick them.
I haven't had a chance to listen. I haven't had a chance to listen to Troy Lesesne's press conference, and I'll be curious to see. My job is insanely busy right now. I don't have time to break away for a little bit to hop on a press conference, take a lunch break and do it. Unfortunately, but I kind of regret maybe not being on that podcast because when the lineup came out, so just to go over the lineup, it was the surprise, I guess, was that Dominic Baji came in for Jared Stroud. Jared Stroud hasn't been great, but I was like, you're really like, and also particularly with how much he praised how well the team played against Columbus. My thought process was, that was a blip. You're heading in the right direction. You throw out mostly the same lineup and you give them sort of another chance. I think he looked at the lack of finishing and he maybe was like, I need to get another striker out here. He played basically the lineup said 4-2-3-1. It was not that. It was essentially a 4-2-2-2. It was, you had Benteke and Baji kind of being the mainline strikers. You then had your sort of 2 central / wingers or I guess 1 winger in Joao Pedro. Pedro was playing very centrally. I thought he was maybe was not very effective. And then you had Pirani, obviously he's going to play centrally. And then you have your 2 center midfielders in Kojima and Peltola. And San Jose rolled out a 3-5-2. So your front 2 are going to be outnumbered by 1 with the 3 center backs that are there. You then have your wingers. You have your 4 block of your Peltola, Kojima, Pirani, and Peglo. They're going to be outnumbered by 1 by your by having 4 midfielders. You're going to have 5 midfielders in there, so they're going to be outnumbered. And then you have your sort of line of center backs to make up for that. You're going to have your wing backs push forward. Dotson and Schnegg are going to have to push forward. And then you're going to have a situation, though, then you have two center backs that are going to have to hold up. Or at the very worst case, you have Dotson maybe play a little bit back or Schnegg play a little bit back, and you've got three center backs. But they are going 1v1 with Chicho, Christian Espinoza, and Joseph
Martinez.
Sorry. Just Martinez, sorry. That is like I literally have thought back to this. Like I'm like, why? Like why what was the thought? Like did he, and you know, I mean I haven't watched San Jose. I have to wonder if he saw that and he wasn't, oh crap, what did I just do? I question that a little bit because you are essentially forcing your team to try to play a man down in nearly every section of the field, but potentially defense. And you're opening yourself up to exactly what happened, which was DC maybe had some good build-up, but as soon as their wingbacks were pushed forward, San Jose was just able to hit them quickly on the counter. Kojima and Peltola couldn't really do much. They were outnumbered in a lot of cases, so they really couldn't do much. And San Jose was able just to kind of run through them. They get, you know, the goals they gave up. They gave up a goal of a set piece. Again, set pieces continue to be a massive, massive issue for this team that got to come up with some way to correct it.
Benteke winning all kinds of headers at him, headers around him,
and
headers in his own goal.
Yeah, into his own goal. I'm not sure if he's going to get the own goal call.
He won't. I don't think he will.
But and then the second goal too, especially just sold the really, I think the problem with sort of this formation change. It was almost like, I don't know, he doubted himself and was like, I need to like throw something different. I need to do something different. I need to change things up.
After our best result of the season against our best opponent.
I got Bruce Arena coming to town. And so, you know, I am a little surprised. I need to listen back. Maybe he said this. If someone listened to the press conference, please correct me. But, and again, I only got a quote from Stephen Goff. I don't have the press conference with me, but if I was the coach and I looked at the situation, I feel like you should hold your hand up and say, yeah, I got the tactics wrong here. I screwed up. Playing, you know, if you had played a Jared Stroud, yes, the offensive production might not have been there, but you would have at least allowed Peglo to kind of be left. You would have had five midfielders. You would be able to sort of match that, and you would have had more opportunity for overlaps. That's really what happened here, is that the team lost the ability to do those overlaps, that, you know, the overlap of Peglo and Schnegg. And
the only thing that's worked effectively from an offensive perspective, other than Benteke just heading the ball in the net.
Exactly. So the players, you know, Troy Lesesne is playing with a weak deck. This team has to go into every match with a talent deficiency, even against San Jose, who, by the way, haven't made many changes. They've got Chicho, though, and they've got Joseph Martinez, who's not as dynamic as he was, but is still
he's a reheated Joseph Martinez at this point. After his Montreal stint, after a knee injury, he's definitely not Atlanta one, but he's certainly he still does the business. He still does the business quite all right. I think the show may have been saying we should have signed him. I think pretty on the cheap. I don't think he was too expensive either.
Yeah, I don't know if he would have fit. I think Chicho would have been one that maybe you would have have him as a designated player. He plays that sort of false nine role anyway, so he's going to play kind of underneath, similar to a certain other player that they signed that they tried to make work. So I think that could have been one. And overall too, just the lack of creativity. It was every time Chicho got the ball, he was going to try something. It didn't always come to fruition, but it didn't. It didn't always work. Do you have any? Sorry, I don't want to suck up the show. What did you have any other thoughts, I guess, from this game, or any other points?
Just sort of the thing that came out. I did want to talk about. We're not going to go point by point on this game because why would you? But I think we should. The Pirani tackling Kai Raul's goal was probably the best. That is the we'll be right back part of this game. I think if you were to put that in the in the anthology, that was pretty bad. Someone told him to shoot, and now he shoots with all impunity. I don't have the stats in front of me. Let's see. I feel like DC United has 17 shots, 10 of them on goal. Somehow of those 10 that were on goal, 7 of them were directly at the goalkeeper from like 18 yards, based on just on the highlights alone. Not very dangerous opportunities for having that high volume of shots. It's I think there's a lot. So the one quote that came out of the post game was that Troy says we're gonna have to look at some things and make some changes. Okay, all right. What would that mean necessarily? We've got you can make a goal. You can make a goalkeeper change. I think that's worth a shot. Why not? There was at least 2 goals there. I want to talk about the goal where it was Joseph Martinez basically running in behind from 30 yards. I heard someone describe it as Bartlett told June to stay home and then yelled at him for staying home. It looked to me like he was yelling at him for not coming out and trying to that. Is that your read on how it was as well?
I think this is a case where June didn't anticipate. He hesitated. And then Bartlett kind of went back and was kind of like, at this point, just stay home because, I'm going to try to, you took too long. It's just like, it's too late. You can't come out. I'm going to, I don't want you to go do something rash and get sent off at this point. We give up a goal. And you made the mistake. So yeah,
if we get a red card, we might lose 6-1 in this game. So we better play it safe.
So yeah, at the time. And that's what I saw happen is that, and then I saw that instant too. And I'm like, yeah, buddy, you got to be out quickly for that. You got to recognize that. I will state that again. I think this is where I think Troy's tactical setup for this game really deserves, because I was like, where's Dotson in this situation? And then I looked like, oh, Dotson is the one. Everybody's shifted over to the left. Dotson is having to go up and play the ball, and Peglo is right there. And Peglo's responsibility should be to start running because he's got to cover space and just try to get to where that space can be covered. Because if he, I think, goes in a little bit of a sprint, he might be able to catch Martinez, certainly catch Martinez. Martinez is old. He's not running fast. But he doesn't. He kind of holds up. And again, I'm not going to be too hard on him because he's an attacking winger. He's not designed to be like a defensive minded player. If the lineup is, and that's where I look at it, the lineup is what it was last week. Jared Stroud's in that position. Jared Stroud has much, much better defensive tendencies. And so he would have made, I believe fully, he would have made that run back. And that goal would not have happened. You wouldn't have had to have June come out. So yes, I do think June should come out a little more, but I look kind of at the tactical collapse that happened. There was no one within, 50 feet of Martinez. And at that point, that feels like a tactical issue that should have been figured out and should have been recognized.
Kyral's being a bit slow is seeming to be sort of a problem, and also a sort of consensus view by fans. I obviously a change gets made and will get made here. Who makes way for McNaughton? Because McNaughton's the only other healthy center back, because Garrison Tubbs is hurt.
Yeah, I mean it's probably McNaughton, and he gets a start, and he was not good against Orlando. I don't know. I talked about there's certain players. Kai Rouse was getting spun around. Kai Rouse was also asked to defend the 3 attackers I just talked about, either man to man or down a man based on the tactical setup. I am leaning more towards, I think in this game in particular, I think Troy's tactical setup failed them. In a lot of ways that made players worse than they could be. We've seen Kai Rouse play well. We've seen him have moments. I think the fact that this team kind of gave up, to me, tells like I feel like there wasn't a communication on roles, or there wasn't something, and they just kind of like forget it. And also I will point to Troy Lesesne sub patterns. The guy has a tendency to go kitchen sink, and he went kitchen sink in this game. He subbed in Jacob Murrell for Matty Patola. So essentially he had Rita Zohir, he had Jacob Murrell. I need to look back at some of the other subs, but he had Aaron Herrera out there, which was one of the other ones. I want to get back, because it was basically, there was no
Leal,
transition.
Stroud, Herrera, Zohir, and Merle are the
Yeah.
subs.
So it was like, and I get it, you're down 3-1. Would you have rather played a little more conservatively, kept a guy like Peltzel out there? Because I will say they went down 3-1, they got a goal at halftime, and they had another really good chance in that 50th minute. Things kind of slowed down, and I think that's where we get into the other fault for this, which is just like there just aren't players, and there aren't players that are good. Rita Zohir came out, and I was like, really? That's who you're going to go with? And again, maybe Karamoko comes in, maybe Jackson Hopkins comes in, and they're better, and maybe,
Maybe
it's
a
but
guy, a draftee with no experience in Jackson Hopkins, a player who's he's fine.
At least it's another option.
Yeah.
I do wonder. I wonder if some of the changes to this. I'm like at this point, I think Barajas, in my opinion, deserves a fuller run out.
He's never looked good, but sure. I think why not give it a shot? You got him till June, so give him a shot now.
You might as well just see what you have with that. And also, Gavin Turner. Let's get him out there. Let's see what he can do. I think we will see potentially Leal start for Pirani. I could see that happening. He went 20, 30 minutes. Saying,
I hope so. I hope so. I've got to I hope so. But I think that he's a player. Maybe it's not fair after the injury already this season, but I just assume that if you play him more than 60 minutes, he'll break again. Until I have to see him do it a couple times. He's got to play like 3 or 4 games without going on the injury thing for any questionable anything, and then I'll be a little bit more rosy about him. But why not? I think after this loss and the start to the season and Troy feeling his seat get a little warmer, you've got to start making some drastic calls, I think.
Yeah. If the team suffers, I'd say another, it doesn't even have to be, I think, a 6-1 loss. If it's 2-0, 3-0 in that range, I will not be surprised if the team says, you know what, we're gonna make the call. If the team really looks like he has lost the locker room, which this was the first moment where I was like, it feels like he's lost the locker. It feels like this is the first moment where everybody just kind of dropped their shoulders and that was it. This will be a massive game, I think, for Troy if he can, pull out a win, which is honestly not out of the equation for this team to play better than they have and pull out a win. I would not. MLS is weird, man. There's all kinds of stuff that happens. This is so. But if it is, let me give you the sense. I'm having to make a prediction. Troy is in the job after he plays the next game after Cincinnati. He coaches the next game after Cincinnati. Yes or no?
I don't think unless Jim Curtin is hanging out in Loudoun County right now.
Where would you say you've talked about midseason? Do you think he's fired midseason?
Yeah.
You think? Wow.
I do. I mean, and like I think I said last week, do I think that's good? Do I think that that's going to be getting us any closer to where we want to be? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't really think it is. They've got to blame somebody. They've got to push somebody out. The sale, I think it's been a no sell for all of the fans because they've said it's not a rebuilding year. They've said it's not. Like they're like we want to be we're trying to be competitive. We think we have a playoff roster here. And then the results have not shown that. The players that they brought in don't really show that. You have to sort of squint your eyes and look sideways to say, putting aside the cap situation, to look at this roster and be like, yeah, playoffs. Yes, good enough. You have to kind of just cross your eyes a little bit. So I feel like there's a miss alignment between what the reality is, what was sold to the fans, because also the last year the sale was, this is the rebuild year. Next year is the year we're really going to go for it. And it turned out that it just didn't turn out that way. And they couldn't just be like, all right, timeout. we're gonna we'll run it back one more time. Then it's gonna be then next year when we have this spot open, then it'll be. But they just didn't do that. So I think that if it depends on how hot the fans get, do people start turning away? And to your point before about the locker room, does Christian Benteke start losing interest? Because if he loses interest, then you have absolutely zero things on this team working for you. And it's a diminishing value if you have a cranky Benteke, if you wanted to trade him or figure out a way to accumulate assets for him. Which maybe that's a move too.
I think if the season continues the way it is, but you still have the team alive in the Open Cup.
I was just about to say Open Cup. May 6th is the Open Cup home game.
I think if as long as he keeps that team alive and if he manages to pull up, and I'm assuming this team is going to be terrible. I think ultimately he still gets the year. I think they will give him a summer window, and if results don't improve after making, I think if they bring in, if they do get the signing, they appear to be like teasing it, like they feel like it's like something close, but it's like, it's kind of like, oh well, it's kind of like like maybe there's somebody who's interested, but they're just maybe not quite there yet. Because I mean, they went 3-3 for a reason. They could have used that extra, million in GAM and banked it. So I think that's also possibly maybe they weren't getting a lot of buy-in from ownership. And then it's like, hey, we really need to go and make this signing. You guys need to open up the checkbook. This team needs something better. We've put Pirani out there. It's not working. We got this number 10. He just needs this amount of money. I wouldn't put it past them for maybe trying something like that and saying, hey, we really need to go out here and make a signing. And so we'll see.
I think, I don't know if you said it or I said it, about how, if we're at the nadir here, if we're at the real bottom of the barrel. The bottom of the barrel is Ali Mackay putting ownership on the spot for not giving him the resources he wants. So firing Troy, but then also being like, I can only do what I can do here. There was a thing in my mind, the Losada sarcastically starting Jackson Hopkins after he asked for midfield reinforcements. And he's like, here is a child. I will play this child. I don't know that he's good, but you won't give me any players. So Jackson Hopkins, you're now in the starting lineup against Austin. Good luck. I think I am curious. Ali Mackay had a 3-year contract, correct?
Mm-hmm.
He's halfway through his contract in June of this year. I think it's a question. Like he's only got one accountability card he can pull is fire the coach. He can't fire all the players, whatever else. He's not going to quit right away. The worst thing that could happen is he fires Troy. The window comes. They still don't hire a DP. We have a zombie team that does not know exactly where it's going to be. Is not utilizing all of the mechanisms it can use. And then Mackay just loses interest in the role because he was sold a bill of goods when he came here. Maybe, we don't know, and then that hasn't come to fruition. It's kind of revisionist history. I think if looking at, we've spent money has been spent, transfer fees have been paid, still less than other teams of reasonable size, but that is how it could get worse. Is A, losing the project, which would be bad, but B, would be legitimizing the concerns that fans have had for a long time, is that actually it's ownership. And you could have put anybody in here, and there's just not the level of, what's the ambition.
I mean, this is really a major thing. I mean, this is kind of the last card I think ownership has to play. It was like, no, we just need the right GM in here. We care. We're going to get a smart GM. We're going to do all the things that we want. And if Mackay does fail, then it's definitely ownership. Then we are in Washington Commanders territory with ownership of just it's you, regardless of what you do, you can't succeed.
I want to say something without having said it to you ahead of time and get your reaction on the show. If they fire Ali and Dave Casper comes back and an interim GM perspective, I would like to put the show on hiatus.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I feel if they fire on Mackay, I'm ready to. I'm actually ready to quit. I'm done. What's the point? I don't think they're gonna do that. I think Ali's going to see out his contract. You cannot function where you do that to a GM. There are some players that have looked good. I think Ali's hit rate has been okay. Herrera was good.
Worse the second year for sure.
Yeah, Schnega's been pretty good. There's some Peglo seems pretty good. There have been players he's hit. It is incredibly tough when you're overhauling a roster like this and you're bringing in a bunch of players. You're not going to get hit on every player, and you're probably going to miss more than you hit. It's about, can you get enough solid foundation that you can at least put something together. We'll see. And this is coming. Alan Watts has a question from our Discord.
Let's do it.
The new GM has the same scouting ability tendencies as Dave Casper, acquire players from the bargain bin in the league from outside obscure leagues. Here's the thing. Again, we do have to the notion of the bargain bin shopping. The players they've acquired so far have been salary cap related players. They've had to fit them within the salary cap, whether that's using allocation money, whether that's trying to do internal trades within the league or trade GAM. You do have to be good at that in MLS, and you have to be able to work within those constraints. So I will say, for right now, Ali Mackay has signed one designated player. And in any other year, he would not have been a designated player. He would have been a TAM player. In fact, he is now a TAM player, and that's Matty Peltola. So we've had one DP signing that he's done. So we really haven't seen. I think that will be sort of the test over this window and the next window is, can he go out? Can he go out and find an Acosta? Can he go out and find a real big time number 10? Whether in the league, hey, San Jose went and got Chicho. That was a great move. You brought him in, on a trade,
interleague trade,
and an interleague trade. So can he go and do that type of thing? Because we haven't seen it yet, and that is the one thing we have not seen it yet. So I will argue the bargain bin shopping by saying you've got to do that. You still have to do that. That's not that is trying to overhaul a roster, and you are still trying to build within that salary cap. MLS has not increased the salary cap enough in my regard. And so the players that they're able to get for the values that they're trying to get are shrinking very quickly. And when you don't have an LA that you can advertise, you have DC, it makes it harder. The only other option would be to have a better, more robust academy and sign players and have, an MLS next team, but we don't have that.
That would be a choice. That would certainly be a choice.
Let's
just run through these depressing questions all the way through.
Yeah. RJN says, this is the second away game that Lesesne's tactics were just a hot mess. Does he need to have a more conservative approach on the road? I do want to ask, the double pivot, they've been trying to sort of play the double pivot at time, maybe with Kojima, with Peltola, is it time maybe to try out, Peltola and Innie now?
Sure.
And try to make that work.
Why not? I think so. That was DC United staple for much of the time this podcast has been going on.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it could work. I think that could be something you see next week. You could be we need to figure this out defensively. I'm putting 2 defensive midfielders in that pivot. Put Leao in there. Maybe Leao can drop in a little bit and connect. I think there is some concern about, can the players actually connect, but maybe he now can be a guy who can, maybe be that sort of linking number 8 while also covering a lot of ground. B Huzzle, this is something you brought up. You brought up right before the game. And so I wanted, last question, how much are we missing Click? Was it worth exiling him for whatever money we got in roster flexibility? I wasn't sure. He wasn't the answer, but gosh, certainly doesn't feel like we are better or even good without him. Stroud and Herrera really seem to miss his presence on his side.
The way I commented about it was, for all the consternation about Matthias Klick, he has played like 65 minutes for Atlanta. Can't crack that line up. I don't think this team would be much, much better with him on the field, particularly with the style of play that has been the sort of the meta this year. Now the question is, was the roster flexibility worth? No, I don't think so. We can't tell for sure. Like what was enabled because of having that, I think $300,000 additional on the salary cap, because they took a very small chunk of his on budget salary. So that move is interesting to me, right? That's a could you please could you up the credit limit on my credit card just a little bit, just like $800? Don't ask me why, but it would be good if you did that. I think it would have been great to have him on the roster still as an option, to sort of change the play style. It seemed to me like it was we're ripping the Band-Aid off. We don't want to have a crutch and we want to change the way we're playing. We want to change the profile player we're looking for. We want to have everyone that can run. So we're going to remove this crutch from our own arm, I guess. And then we'll just make do, and I'm sure we'll be fine. So I don't know how much we're missing him specifically. I don't know that we'd be really good with him on the team, but I think that unless I can be convinced otherwise, which I don't think I can, I don't think the $300,000 was worth not having him around. I don't think it would have been as big of a problem as maybe some people think.
I contend he hasn't looked good for Atlanta, but that happens with players when they move teams. Sometimes they look good, sometimes they don't. I think it's there are plenty of examples. We can talk about, the most, why can't I think of the name? The guy from Peru, Edison Flores, fantastic for his Mexican club. That's why DC brought him in. Comes into DC, looks terrible. There are a lot of factors that play into that. Style of play, coaching, or the wheels just falling off in this case. I think they would have been, I'm not sure they would have, I don't want to put a plus minus. I think you would have had him in that spot next to Peltola. You would not be playing Kojima. So maybe that's, if Kojima becomes a better player. But I also think that he would give you more flexibility. You would have that. You could then look to say, hey, let's get in a DP number 10. We can sort of use him as a crutch through the summer, and then we're going to go out and make the big splash on a DP. The only reason I was for the move was I was like, well, they're going 2-4, and then they're just going to get extra GAM and kind of bolster the roster around it. So, yes, they might not play great, but they're going to improve defensively. They have not improved defensively. So overall, it's just been a gamble
They've gotten worse defensively.
Yeah.
Do you now this many games in, does Kojima seem to you like a $400,000 game player to you at the moment?
Hey. Yeah,
he's had a very up and down season so far, where he's been at highs and he's had lows. But my question is based mostly on how he's being utilized on this roster, and is he a fit for the way of the style of play and the position of needs for that money?
I think you could make an argument to maybe try him further up the field. Yeah, I mean, 400,000 is still relatively cheap comparatively. I think the problem, I don't know. He's looked really good on that 8 role. I was like, he needs to be in that 8 role. That he's not going to be good as a number 10 right now. Pirani's not doing much in that number 10 role either, so maybe it's worth trying him out there. I think regardless, I think he will. We'll see what happens if things get better with him. But right now, I'd say yes, he's a $400,000 player because he's had moments where he's looked good.
Some value has been extracted.
There's been value extracted. I still think he's a decent player. I didn't even think he was like the worst player out there last game either. I think the tactical formation kind of failed him more than anything. Who do you assess as underperforming, overperforming? I've been disappointed about everyone besides Benteke, Peglo, and to a lesser extent Schnegg. Feels like regression, stagnation from everyone else. Indictment of Troy's ability to implement a system and clarify the roles within it. This was also from B Huzzle on Blue Sky. I think you got it right there. Benteke, Peglo have been good. Schnegg's been good. Mural, if you asked me 2 games ago, I said Mural looks really good, but Mural's also been... I'd say Dotson. I think Dotson's overperformed. I don't think the goals were his fault. I think he's shown to have some value to this team. So I'd say where we thought he was, I think it would be an performance. Everyone else, yeah, man, it's been rough goings. Kim Jung-hong has had some good moments and some very bad moments. It's been like a 21-year-old goalkeeper.
It has not been a net improvement on the last year's goalkeeping situation to me so far.
Yeah, and I worry You bench him,
And then what?
and then what? So that is the only argument I could say that maybe they might keep him out here. Is like maybe they might keep him because like this guy just got here, and you're just going to absolutely wreck his confidence.
And his value.
Yeah. So,
well, I mean, it is always somewhat contentious, or at least a risk, to assume I'm going to bring in this goalkeeper that has international profile, and I'm going to maybe move him on in a couple years. I don't think we ever thought. It was always sort of someone was like, June is coming here as a opportunity to play some, and then he's going to go to Europe. Basically, was the implicit message there. So to bring him in and have him sort of not jump and maybe flounder a little bit, it hurts his sell-on value if you already move on from him. It hurts his development if he doesn't play. And if his team it's like, is the team going to go anywhere this year? If not, like, benching him is like a double loss. You're losing the year, but you're also losing the value that you were placing on this player. So it's tough. So someone says bring back Hamid. Bill's doing his thing down in the USL Championship. I don't know that it's going super well yet, but I think he's fine. I was going to say the only player that I've liked is Peglo.
Yeah, that's been about it. Kojima, I guess, I'll still classify him as overperforming. I think he showed up really strong. I think it's difficult to talk about overperforming players after a 6-1 loss.
Yeah.
So I kind of have to put that game out of it and because that game, everybody's bad. I mean, there was across the board, everybody was bad. Benteke, scores a goal. I mean, but really, and he had another, I guess, moment where maybe it could have been 3-2, and maybe we're talking about a different performance. But feels like Pelta, Schnegg, and Rolls are all underperforming. Schnegg, I guess, had good moments, had poor moments. I think tactically he was not supported well in this game. The broadcast highlighted as his players' European experience, and none of them have made a stamp of the team bad transfers or just part of the team not functioning as we had hoped.
None of these were can't miss players with an international pedigree. So, I mean, it'd be one thing if you were bringing in players that were playing in top leagues, and had a record of success in those leagues. So I don't know. It's when you're shopping at a different level, so you have to have different expectations.
Schnegg is the one player I will say that had probably the most pedigree of the three. Pelta played in Finland, was interesting into a lot of European teams, but young. Rawls playing in Scotland. Scotland's not the best quality of soccer, though he is, Australian international.
They do have red hair down there sometimes.
Schnegg, of course, comes from. I mean, he played for Austrian Bundesliga winning team and was a huge part of them in that role. So he had, he won and played, like you said, in Europe, in Europa leagues and conference leagues, and had that type of pedigree. So he really was the one player I think that had the most pedigree of the three, and
he's played like it.
Yeah, he has played like it. Keith Slack, at this point, what is more likely, playoffs or wooden spoon?
Oh. Matt Doyle says wooden spoon. He has us at the bottom. Yeah, I think probably so. It's very mean to ask that question after this loss, but
yeah, I don't think either is likely. I think there are teams that are in a lot. Again, Montreal chief among them. I think over the course of the season, things are going to level out. I think this team is going to be. I may be coming back on my prediction that they're going to be in the playoffs after a couple performances. I think the fact that the team, if the team was like maxed out on DPs and this was the roster for the rest of the year, then yeah, I would say maybe, and they were playing like this, I would say, yeah, maybe wooden spoon is more likely. I think there is still some roster room for this team to grow again with that DP coming in. If they do hit on that type of player, then I think you can make an argument that they could, again, we are still early in this season. We are still in April.
Unfortunately, we're now going to play Cincinnati, who's won and drawn out of their last games, and then New York Red Bulls and then Philly. So it is early, but it's going to get later.
Yeah, it's going to get tougher. That's for sure. And And Todd Dodge over on Facebook says, "Me, I'm just old school, but it feels like everyone is playing for a paycheck, not the team. Players in general care about the club they're playing for. I want to hear that the locker room was full of pissed off players." I don't think anybody wants to play on a team.
No one enjoyed that.
No one enjoyed playing on that team. I will say, I think Troy has to figure out how to either get that energy out of the team, get them to bottom. His Thursday press conference is going to be interesting. Because I am wondering what his mood is going to be like. I wonder what
Gavin Turner is starting the game against FC Cincinnati.
I'm wondering what the mood is going to be like, or what the conversations are going to be like, or what the player interview is going to be like. Yeah.
In the old days, it would have been Birnbaum. They would have had to come out there and be like, we're very close. We're very close. We're having fun out there in the training field.
Hoya's DCU says, who exits the starting lineup? Who exits the match day roster? I will say, I don't know if anyone is going to exit the match day roster. I'm going to say, I think Inau comes back in. I'm not sure if that means Peltola. If you're still looking to have somebody be a more offensive-minded player in that spot next to him, I think Peltola exits, and then is it Kojima? Possibly still. It's still Kojima in there. Maybe he gets a little crazy with it and plays Leal. I don't know. I think Stroud will make his way back on the right side. I think they'll go back to
Stroud and Herrera both will come back in.
Stroud and Herrera both will come back in. Do you think McNaughton replaces Rouse?
Yep, I think that's going to happen. Leal's going to go in for Pirani. And that's probably it. And I don't think they're going to make a goalkeeper change. It'll be just that one center back change. That'll be their idea. I think Antley's probably close. He's not going to start, but I think they're going to try to get him minutes, just to give themselves another option. Again, the problem has not been a left back, but he also can play right back. So that's the good thing about him. He's versatile in that way. It's not like they're keeping a known good quantity off the field. It's not like they were like, you know what? Too bad, kid. You probably would be great, but we're not letting you play. That's not their situation.
I think you will see Gavin Turner in place of Rita Zohir.
Yeah, why not? I think that's right. I think
that Rita Zohir was given an opportunity. He was the first sub at halftime, and I think it was like, go out there, do something, try to get this team back in. And he was like a USL player. He played like a USL player out there. Not effective. I don't think he did much. There was never moments in that game where he looked dangerous. And that does it for the questions.
Good. I think I should do it for the show too.
Yeah, I think I should do it as well. Oh man, it's a tough game, guys. Maybe things will be better next week. There's always next week.
Or if you really want the show to go away, you should be asking the ownership to fire Ali Mackay and rehire Dave Casper. And then Ted and I will disappear into the sunset like an old cowboy, because that's the end.
Yeah, that will be the end. I, again, don't think if that happens, I mean, there will be some serious questions again. All right, folks, I'm going to do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will catch you guys next week, hopefully in better times. Vamos.